Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is February 6th, 2021, and I'm your co-host, Thefatwizard, joined today by...
Alamaxia.
And Lobos.
Today we're taking a look at Dragon Warrior. This was released in North America in August 1989.
Oh.
I think it's either 89 or 87.
89
I should probably
North America, 86 Japan.
That's what it was, yeah. Yeah, and it was actually released in Japan under the title Dragon Quest. So, and, you know, then it came over here, Dragon Warrior, and then I'm not sure which game it was, but at some point they unified that, and it's now Dragon Quest all the way around the world.
I think there was 3 Dragon Warriors and then Dragon Quest 4 from them. I could be wrong.
Yep, I think you're right. I know there was at least 3 that were involved in the Erdrick line. There was this one, 2, which was a sequel to this one, and then 3, which is a prequel.
Ah.
Ooh, prequels are always fun. Get a little bit of the backstory here. We're getting a little bit of the story going in, like right off the bat here. You start the game, you name your save file or your character. I named it SMG.
Nice.
You know, around the room, what would we name our characters?
I named mine Alamaxia.
Okay.
And mine was Lobos. Very
Okay,
original.
I wasn't sure if you guys were gonna go like name him Erdrick and kind of like, you know, break the fourth wall a little bit there, but it would be great there. So this is a very old school RPG where you have one party member, and you know, it's very tile based as those RPGs tend to be on the NES. You walk around in the overworld, and you go fight battles, and then you go into cities and you talk to people. And we're talking to people right now. We started out in front of the king, and the king kind of jabbers on about his missing daughter. Actually, I think he gives you a little bit more backstory about the legacy of the Descendant of Erdrick. And then you can talk to these guards, and basically you need to collect a key from a treasure chest just above the king there. So it's a little bit of a tutorial where it's like, hey, you got to figure out how to walk and talk and pick up items before we even let you out of the king's chambers. So that was interesting. I don't recall many RPGs doing that. You know, I'm kind of thinking about it in my head and just being like, generally they just kind of throw you in, sometimes right into battle. So yeah, I don't know. I thought it was something worth noting. And then you go ahead and open up the door and you go down the stairs and you're on your way to adventure. This was exciting for me. Alamaxia, we touched on it last month. You said that you played this with the game Genie. So I want to see, like, coming back to it after and deciding not to cheat. What were you thinking about, like, jumping in here and being like, well, we're going to have to do this legit?
It was a lot more of a grind fest than I expected it would be. I knew that the game was going to involve quite a bit of leveling along the way, but the thing that I know the game Genie really helped me out on my first playthrough when I was much younger was I think I pretty much started at max level, so I didn't have to go through the 20 hours of grinding.
Yeah, max level is level 30 in this game. And looking at these experience charts, so to get to like level 1 from level 2, it's, I don't know, like 5 XP, 10 XP. And to get all the way to level 30, it is actually the maximum value of, oh boy, it's basically 65,500, whatever. It's the max value of an int there, an integer on the NES. So I think that's 16, right? Well, in any case, that if you look at the experience chart, the ramp goes up very quickly. So like I think I got to like level 23 in the game, and I only had about like 27 or 28,000 experience points. So I was like, yeah, I'm way past halfway through the level mark, but certainly not the experience mark.
Yeah, I think
So,
once you reach level 20,
there's a lot of
it's
grinding.
just 4,000 experience per level beyond that. Otherwise, it raises by a pretty good exponential value up until then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, one of the things I like about this game is it's simple enough. There's not a whole lot of content here. So we do get a bunch of time to walk around the town here and talk to people. So Lobos, I'm gonna ask you here about this city in a minute, but first I'll just kind of name some of the locations. So you start out in Tantagel Castle, and that you meet the king and you talk to some people there, and then one of the points of one of the dialogues from one of the characters said, "Hey, if you go out to the east, there's a town there that you can stock up in goods, weapons and armor, and that town is Breckenary." One of the things I thought was really cool about the game is when you start out, they give you, I think it's like 200 gold pieces, and you can go to the shop, and you can basically spend those 200 gold pieces, you can get like a really great weapon, or not so great armor, or really great armor and not so great weapons. So you kind of have to choose, what you preferred. Lobos, what did you go with? Do you remember what your starting weapon is? Because you can get either the bamboo pole or the club.
Yeah, I got the bamboo pole early.
So that's the cheap one.
Yeah, it was cheaper. I might have already done some killing by then, so I might have also picked up the shield. I forget what the first shield is, wooden shield or something. But pretty quick, like I've been through the gamut of JRPGs. And as soon as I find a town and I see that there's upgrades, that is my focus. I'm like, all right, cool, time to grind. So we get all those items before we even start to move on. So that's exactly what I did. I got those things, I equipped them, and then I immediately just started grinding and got everything that I needed from there, and then moved on.
So this is slightly divergent here, but it's worth noting there's a game called Faxanadu, which at the very beginning you can get a really, really powerful shield if you really want to grind, and it's probably 4 or 5 hours of grinding. So someday we got to play Faxanadu to see if you go through that grind.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, we chatted, or we went into Breckenary a little bit. And Lobos, if you remember any of the dialogues or any of the characters or anything that sticks out of your mind, kind of walk us through some of the sights. Give us a little sightseeing trip of Breckenary.
My memory is mostly in a functional capacity. So I remember that there is there's the equipment shop, like you mentioned. So they sell the weapons and armor. And there's an inn where you can stop by. You can pay 6 gold and regen all your health and mana. And then there's also an item shop where you can purchase things like a torch, which will let you see in a dungeon, or is it herb?
Herb, yep.
Yep, herb that lets you heal. And then, I went through and talked to everybody, but there's a lot of talk. Yeah. There are a lot of NPCs in this game. So I don't remember exactly which ones Breckenary had in particular, but if you had something in mind.
Yeah, I think every one of the major towns, I guess, so Breckenary, Garnheim, I'm butchering the names, I apologize, and Cole, and also there's Rimlar. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 out of those 4 towns have a character in there that's like, hey, you think you're a descendant of Erdrick? You got something to show me to prove that? Did you guys see that and realize that each of the towns kind of had that?
Yeah, and each of the towns, some of them were like, hey, you just need to show me the proof. And some of them would start to give you hints about where to start going to maybe find out how to get to that next step.
By the way, I could never find out how to give them proof, even though I was like decked out in his sword and Erdrick's armor and had his Erdrick's token. It was just like no one recognized. So I don't know if there's you can actually show them something, but I couldn't figure it out. Right now, what we're doing. What's that?
Oh, I was just gonna say that I thought that was required. No,
Nope.
Oh.
I don't think you have to prove to the NPCs that you're a descendant of Erdrick, but there is a required item which shows that you might know Erdrick.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're just they're plebs. You don't need to prove yourself to the the citizens.
Right,
Don't worry about them. You just got to prove yourself to the lordship there.
Yeah.
So one of the things that is always kind of fun in editing video like this here is that so there's a lot of grinding here, and what I ended up doing is just like, hey, I'm just gonna like fast forward through a bunch of time here, and so this stuff isn't. I didn't fast forward through it in the emulator. I did play this on an emulator. So this is all like normal footage we captured, and then I just sped it up in post here. But it gives us a good understanding. Like we can see a couple fights here, some simple progression, some leveling up there. A couple of the intro characters here. You walk out of the castle and there's a couple characters you can fight. There's a blue slime, and this is the first. Obviously since this is the first game in the series, this introduced the classic slime. The big old. He kind of looks like a Hershey Kiss, but he's blue. Big old smile
big
on
red
him.
Smile.
That's
still the slime in Dragon
whimsical.
Quest today.
Yep. And they kind of do a little bit more bouncing and bopping and noise stuff. But yeah, it's the slime. And then there's the red slime, which apparently actually is a female variant of the blue slime. I read.
Lore.
That was kind of cool, and they're actually stronger than the male counterparts. So I think it's even got a separate name. I forget what they call it. But yeah, in any case, this is all stuff that it's not explained in the game. It's kind of outside lore, but it is canonical. So
I'll speak up here because we're doing some encounter stuff. I did look up the manual, actually, and I read through it because sometimes with these older games, especially with equipment items, like you won't know exactly what they do when you go to equip them. And so I read through, and there are a couple interesting pieces, like the terrain type has different encounter rates depending on whether you're on plains or forest or mountains. And the mountains has the highest encounter rate. So if you want to really get a lot of encounters going.
Slows you down also, which I didn't know like what that meant. Like, what does it mean to slow down?
Well, I don't know. Maybe you actually go slow. It didn't look like you go slower though.
Yeah.
It kind of makes your character stall with each step. So instead of having a smooth transition from tile to tile, it's like stop, stop, stop.
That would probably only really matter in the context of a speed run.
Yeah, probably.
Right? Because that doesn't, as far as I know, the time it takes you to traverse the terrain, like the actual, I'm playing the game and it takes me longer to move through here. I don't think it affects the game one way or the other. It's really just the encounter rate.
It wasn't anything that I even really noticed, like, to be like, oh, I'm slower here. It's just, I guess I'm slower here. I don't know. One other thing we didn't mention yet was that the game will actually generate your stats based on your name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because I think you were, I was talking to you, and you're like, I'm going to look up how they do speedruns on this game. And sure enough, you name your character a certain way, and that's how you get your stats. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that might actually change how you level up as well.
It changes your...
So,
go ahead. Nope. No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, it changes your initial stats, but it also changes how your stats scale as you level up.
Okay.
So you can actually get just better scaling or worse scaling, depending on just simply how you name your character. And I did find like the naming guide for it, and it's way too complicated to even start to explain. But it has to do like if you use this list of characters and it has like a value 1 through 15, and then there's another list of characters under it that have value 1 through 15. Then it had to do with you add up the values, like the numerical values of your first 4 characters of your character's name. So like for me, it was ALAM. And you divide that number by 16, and the remainder is, I believe, your base stat.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it'd be kind of curious. What we ought to do is offline, we ought to just get all of our names and just like say like, hey, who chose the more powerful name? That'd be kind of fun.
Nice.
Hey, so we are going into the first dungeon here, and this is called Erdrick's Cave. And it's really just kind of a tutorial dungeon. There's no enemies in here. But what happens when you go into a dungeon, so basically you transition to a dungeon from the overworld, just like you would a city. And what it does is it brings in the light. So if you walk into a dungeon, immediately the only thing you can see is the tile and your character. If you light a torch, it gives you essentially a 9x9 grid. So you can see...
Well, 3x3.
a 3x3.
Yeah, 9
so
total.
you can see 9 total. You can see 1 square above, 1 square below, and then the diagonals and left and right. And so that kind of, it has almost this like claustrophobic exploration of the dungeon tier. But ultimately, you get to the end of Erdrick's cave here, and you find like a little tablet or something, or a page that basically says, "Hey, I'm Erdrick. Thanks for coming." And he's like, "Hey, there's some items you need to collect to defeat the Dragon Lord." And he doesn't tell you what. He's just like, "Hey, by the way, there's going to be some things you need." All right, well, I'm peacing out. And it's like, well, that it would have been a little handy if you'd be like, "Hey, you might want to get the sword, you might want to get the whatever."
Yeah.
But I did find that kind of funny. But I don't know if that's areas you need to go to. Like that might just be optional.
Well, so he says that there are 3 items that he like entrusted, I think, to particular NPCs. And that if you are his true descendant, that you'll be able to, acquire them in order to help defeat the Dragon Lord or whatever. It's all kind of like half pretentious, but also like half like, protecting other people from getting it's like you got to pass the trial in order to collect all the things. And then we'll back you on going to fight that Dragon Lord.
A true descendant of Erdrick would already know the items they need to defeat the Dragon Lord.
Dang.
So when I read that, I was like, okay, there's like 3 people in these towns that are like, hey, where's your proof? I'm like, okay, those are the people that haven't, but that is not the case there. After you go there, I would say that's kind of like the first place people would tend to go, because the way the game is structured is you can kind of consider the overworld where you fight many of the monsters to be almost like different hubs. And each of the hubs is connected through a bridge. And again, going back to that manual, I think even dialogue will tell you that if you cross a bridge, you are now in more dangerous territory.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of funnels people in one direction where like, all right, I'm low level. If I see a bridge, I'm going to go back to where I came from and kind of explore all that area around there. I really, really enjoyed the start of this game because there was a lot of that kind of like pushing out, like almost like frontiering, where it's like, all right, I'm starting to hit things that are a little bit too strong over here, so I'm going to go over here and fight some stuff over there and try to make some progress in different areas. Alamaxia, how did you do on like the exploration? Did you find yourself going like down one path, or did you kind of like a little bit here, a little bit over there?
I explored absolutely everywhere. I treated this game almost like it is pretty much an open world RPG. There's not really any gating along with it. The only gating is, are you strong enough to survive the encounters?
Yeah.
And there were some areas I got into earlier in the game that I really shouldn't have been.
Yeah, okay.
I think when I was around level 5, I found my way down around Hawksness, because I just kept running from enemies, running from enemies. I'm like, I wonder how far I can go. Just kept trying to push south. And
let's chat about combat a little bit here. Lobos, why don't you walk us through the different options? We're not in combat right now.
Sure.
Actually, let's wait until we get into combat. Let's talk a little bit about the city of, I believe we're in Cole. And I think the big thing here is there's a little like a little water shrine or whatever, and this woman says, "Oh, it cures rheumatosius or whatever."
Rheumatism.
And rheumatism, yeah. So
I was fully
you come back there a little
at
bit
some
later.
point in the game to get cursed with rheumatism and have to come back. And
Me too, kind of, yeah.
And I spent probably a good 5 minutes sitting next to that, like, how do I interact with this? I can't talk with it. I can't search it.
All right, Lobos, we are in combat. I think I'm doing some grinding here. So why don't you walk us through some of the different options of combat?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. So all these classic JRPGs, you press, at least for menus, you press a button and it opens up a menu and you have a bunch of options. When you're in combat, you have 4 options: fight, spell, run, and item. Fight is just a straight up, you use your sword or whatever you have equipped to hit the enemy. And based on your stats and their stats, maybe you'll miss, maybe you'll hit, maybe you'll crit. standard combat kind of system there. You also have the option to cast a spell, which you don't have a spell until I think you get the heal at like level 3 or something like that. And you can start healing out of combat or in combat as well. It's pretty minuscule. But then as you progress, you'll get stronger spells, you'll get utility spells, and by the end you have about 8 or 9 spells or something that really help with the combat. You can also use items in combat, like herbs to heal. And there's also the option to run, which you have a speed stat, and I think it just compares your speed stat versus the enemy speed stat and rolls dice based on that. And then if it's successful, then you just leave the combat and you can go back to walking on the overworld. Otherwise, the enemy will just take a free shot at you.
Yeah, it is very frustrating because when you try to run and you fail, it says, you try to run, but you were blocked from the front. And this you know, a lot of the dialogue in this game, it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was a perfect translation. You get,
Sure.
it gets the job done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of it is like thy and thou, that type of wording, that like real old
Right.
English there.
But thou
like,
must.
for instance, yes, yeah. And so, yeah, some of the things were really weird. It would be like, thou hast done well in defeating whatever.
Right,
It's like, I'm not sure people
Dost
talk
thou
like
wish
that
to
even
buy
in an old
anything?
English. Yeah.
What dost thou wish to buy?
That's right. Very fantasy.
The other thing I wanted to know in the combat, in the fighting, because you specifically called out crits.
Mm-hmm.
I think I want to see if this ever happened to you, because what would happen is when you roll a critical attack, like you kind of hear like a do, like some payoff there noise. It's like an excellent strike,
Right.
And then very rarely though.
Yes.
But the enemy dodged it. It's
Yep.
like, oh, that's
Yep.
infuriating.
I think it
Because
even tells you, like, excellent hit, and then the enemy
Yeah.
dodged and took 0. So it's just like... And crits are actually...
have that happen.
You didn't?
There's
Oh,
serious-
yeah. I had that a
man,
couple
there's
times.
Serious
Gosh.
damage.
Yeah. And I feel like crits
It's
were...
like-
The crits are pretty rare, like, compared to some other games. Like, maybe I crit... maybe, like, somewhere between 2 to 5% of the time. So... You're not
That
critting
sounds
very
about
often,
right, yeah.
but sometimes it comes in clutch and helps you secure that victory.
Yeah, I had one of those where I was like, all right, I got one round left or I will die. If they get one more hit and I see the screen shake, an excellent hit, I'm like, yes, and he dodges.
Oh, no.
And then he hits you and kills you. I'm like, what is happening here? That is...
Oh, dear.
Oh, geez, that was rough there. So next up, let's talk about a little bit south of... what town is this? South of Cole, there's a cave called the Northern Cave. And that's, like Alamaxia said, that's a place you can get yourself into some serious trouble early on. It is, I think it is a lower level area. But if you go down one of the side passages, you find the dragon. Lobos, you want to tell us a little bit about that dragon?
Well, yeah, so it's kind of interesting because I stumbled into there, not super early, but I had leveled up to get to the next area and feel comfortable there. And then I was like, ooh, there's this cave surrounded by like poison marsh, which if you walk over the marsh, you'll take, I think it's 2 points of damage every step.
2 points, yep.
Yeah. Which adds up when you don't have that much health, because early on you got pretty low health. So I managed to get myself in there. The enemies weren't too bad, and then you stumble upon the green dragon. And that was my cue, like, all right, I'm out. Just kill me or whatever. I think I managed to run away, and then I just left. But it turns out that dragon is a specific encounter on a particular tile. So it wasn't that it was a random encounter. It's that I happened upon it, and he kind of scared me off early. So I came back later, and it was much easier. But yeah, if you see that, you might not know that it wasn't a random encounter. And
there's another area that has that in the town of. Let me get the name here.
Hawksness.
The town of.
Hawksness has that as well.
Yeah. Is it Hawksness?
There's a couple of places where there's scripted encounters.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is Hawkness there. My map here actually looks like the things are mislabeled here, but yeah, I think it is Hawkness. So we'll get to that in a little bit here. So if you go out of that cave, so you entered in the cave from the north, which is a swamp cave, and then you entered in the mountain cave, and then you go south and you exit out of the swamp cave, and now you're in sort of the next major area of the game. And this is the town with Alamaxia, help me out here. Rimeldar. Yeah, and here, we just saw an NPC there. Sometimes they have weird dialogue.
I have no tomatoes.
You talk to this NPC, she's like, I have no tomatoes today.
Well, that's her concern. That's what she's like, probably stressed out. Yeah, it's true. It's like, oh, there's a market here. There's maybe they came to sell today and she ran out, or she lost her tomatoes, and what's she gonna do?
Now, one thing that they did say when we were up in Cole is they said that the island to the south, you need to be well equipped. That it is a much stronger area. And I think whenever we popped out of that cave, it was very noticeable the scaling difference between the enemies that we were fighting before we went in the cave, and then when we came out of it. I saw that you were fighting, I think it was like a wizard or a warlock or something, and those are such a step up from the first kind of casters that you encounter, and just everything down here is so much more difficult. I know in Rimeldar, this area here, I probably ground out levels like 6 through 14 just in this area.
Interestingly for me, I actually kind of came to this southern area a little later because you can head west, and there's some kind of, there's a step up in difficulty, and then you cross a bridge, and things get a lot harder there. But I think I actually
quite a bit harder.
I kept grinding.
You started getting some serious stuff.
Oh yeah. But right across that bridge, stuff isn't like super hard. If you go south from there, then it gets hard. But I ended up grinding out all of the equipment that I could buy from that northwestern town. That is Garenham. Garenham. And ground out all that equipment. I think the expensive item there is the plate or full plate mail, which was, I think, 1,000 gold. And so, I just spent time, ground it out, got that, and that helped me. I was actually surviving enough to grind a little bit in the western side, but then at that point it was a little too slow, and I'd have to return too much. So then I went back east. And one thing we didn't mention about the area to the south is that up to this point, I'd met several NPCs that were like, "Hey, you can get magic keys from this guy at the south." And so that was my focus. I was like, all right, got to get those magic keys because I've seen some doors that I can't open. So I was very excited to reach that finally.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to just briefly touch on, because we're still in Rimuladar, we talked to an NPC that says, all fighters wear rings, and later on we end up finding a ring. It's called Fighter's Ring, and we put it on. I think if you go talk to that guy again, he says something like, hey, that ring looks good on you.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
I think so. Which is funny because the Fighter's Ring, we'll get to that in a bit, but the Fighter's Ring is supposed to give you +2 to attack. It's actually bugged and doesn't do anything. Yeah. So literally the only thing it does is change that guy's dialogue.
That's cool.
That's cool. Funny.
So we just picked up some magic keys here, and I'm going to now work my way through some of the areas here. Because as Lobos was talking about, you'll find in towns and a couple dungeons will have these locked doors, and you can carry 6 keys, I believe, at once. And once you use it, it's gone. You have to go buy more. One of the more frustrating things about that, though, is if you leave the area, it doesn't save the state of those doors. So you basically have to reuse those keys if you want to go back in that door.
Yeah, so if you open a door, talk to the NPCs behind it, get everything you need, because you don't want to have to spend another 58 gold or wherever you buy your keys from to talk to them again.
Sometimes, though, they would have a vendor behind a key vendor behind a key. So it's like if you use one of your keys here, you can go buy more, and they're a little bit more expensive. Mm-hmm. Now, we just met an old man here, and this is the Northern Cave, and he was asking, I believe, for a harp, or a silver harp. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and he says, if you give me a silver harp, I will give you the staff of rain. And we're going to need one of those items later on. Still on my plundering and pillaging adventure here, I go back to the Tentacle Castle, and there is like a little storeroom there, and you can open up the door with the magic keys, and there's a guard there. And Alamaxia, do you remember what the guard says to you?
It's something along the lines of a brave warrior does not steal, or a true warrior does not steal. And here we are, just like, I'm going to take all this gold.
Cool, gold.
Ha ha ha!
Hey, it's like you have to open the door. I'm like, well, to talk to the NPC. I'm like, well, I want my money back at least. And I actually don't think you come out ahead there. The amount of gold you get is like it's like 35, and I think the key costs like 55 or something. And then so there's a couple other areas inside of Tantagil Castle that you can use and open these magic keys. But one of these areas here has this new tile here, which is I don't know how to describe it. Does anyone know how to describe this thing?
It's just stripes. It's like a striped tile that it kind of looks like glass almost, but it's clearly not, because it's some sort of damaging tile when you step on it. Some sort of like energy, or I don't know. And stepping on it deals, how much is it, like 15 health?
20 points of... Oh, is it only 15? I thought it was... We'll find out here in a minute. So is that 35? Nice. Yeah, 15.
Yeah, 15.
I actually... the way I kind of look at this is it almost looks like in Mario Kart, you might have this texture lining the sides of the road to let you know, like, hey, here's where the gravel is, right?
Sure.
Just that's what it kind of reminded me of. So... Oh man, I completely missed. So you go through those damaging things. You have to have, obviously enough health to go through there. But then you talk to an NPC, and I completely forget what they tell you. Did anyone catch that?
Let me check. I'm wanting to say that the one that we just saw there says something along the lines of... I know he wasn't one that told you that the stones were in Tantagil Castle. There was someone in Ruinor that told us that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't remember, but I don't remember it being very useful either. So,
well, I'm pretty sure it was useful though.
Like,
that's
you would think.
It was I think that was the one that was like in Garenheim's area.
You must push against a wall of darkness
to
find the grave of Garen in Garenheim.
Yeah.
Okay, I do remember that.
The funny thing is, I found that out before I talked to him.
Oh, nice.
But I didn't understand what he was saying, so I kept talking to him. I'm like, what does he mean? Like, I thought I wanted to go into the actual dungeon itself and find a hidden wall. But no, as we see here in the video, it's basically, no, to get to the dungeon, you just need to push on this area that looks like you can't get by.
Yeah, because he mentions the grave, and I never really got the impression that this was like a cemetery or there was a grave here at all.
Yeah.
It's just kind of an interior room with like a little bit of water, almost like a mini lake, and then some guards behind a door that don't tell you anything of worth.
Yeah, well, they tell you, he's like, hey, I'm busy, go talk to the other guy. And then the other guy's like, I'm busy, talk to him. It's like, well, I just wasted a key. Wow, thanks, dudes. Yeah. I was not too happy. I think the NPCs in this game, they are either extremely useful or they are extremely unuseful. There's nothing in between, right? There's nothing where it's like, well, you have to take hints from a couple different, piece them together. One of them will be like, literally, go do this thing, or I don't sell tomatoes.
And some of them are just outright rude. They're just like, go away. Your door was open. I just wanted to walk in and say hi, lady, and you're yelling me go away. Okay.
So we did just get a little clue as we are entering the grave of Garnhem. The old man here actually does say, "Hey, the silver harp attracts enemies," and I think that's basically saying if you go in here, that you'd be prepared to fight. But I kind of took that a little more literally. I'm like, hey, if I go get this harp, maybe I can like play it and the enemies will come out or something. I don't know. I didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah, I had a similar thought, but I ultimately forgot about it by the time I got down there. So.
In some ways, it reminds me of Zelda, where the hints are kind of cryptic.
Right.
And again, I'm not sure if it's a translation issue or they're meant to be like that. But in any case, I really did enjoy trying to just think about the hints there and work my way through. I eventually did get stuck, but it was fun to try to figure out the whole game without looking anything up.
Yeah.
A lot of maps.
Did you actually draw any of these by hand, Alamaxia?
There wasn't any that I really drew out, but I kind of made some notes, like from the staircase, go east, south, east, or I kind of give myself general directions on where I was going. Especially once I got the Radiant spell, which gives you much more than just a 3x3 area of light. I think give you like a 5x5, and that really helped to make these a little less labyrinthian. Yeah,
we just got Radiant there, and this is great because now you can see a lot more than just the torch.
Yeah,
it's
it looks like it's 7x7 for that.
7x7.
That's huge.
And it's worth noting, the dungeons are such that you can see basically corridors all around you, and some of them like loop in on each other, and if you don't have a very bright torch, you don't realize that. But once you get Radiant, you'd be like, oh, this is a dead end. Don't even worry about going down there.
And they're pretty mean with those dungeons because there'll be multiple staircases to take you down. Only one of them will necessarily be the right one, and you'll go down, and then like it's a dead end. Maybe sometimes they'll reward you with a chest just for more exploration, but especially if you like leave a place and come back and you didn't map it out, you're like, oh boy, we got to start this all over again. Which staircase was it?
Yeah, as small as like Erdrick's cave is, much earlier in the game, I spent way longer than I should have in there because of how much it doubles back and circles around, and you don't have that much light to look at, and that is what kind of started I need to kind of note the general direction I'm going because I am completely lost. I think I got lost in that cave for about 5 minutes before I could find my exit out.
Well, it's also one of these things where the enemy encounter it can be quite high. And so like you may take 5 steps and have 3 encounters, and that kind of messes with your orientation. You're like, all right, was I going this way or did I explore this?
Yeah.
And it's very easy. If you remove out enemies, this stuff's easy to get through. But it was very tense, and I liked going through these dungeons because you don't have a lot of hit points. You don't have a lot of materials. You can only carry 6 herbs with you, so it's almost like this battle of attrition. You're like, boy, do I want to press on and try to see if there's an end here, or should I just go back and heal up and whatever?
Actually, now that we're talking about it, I remember now what I spent a lot of the early game doing, and that was if you head west, there's a cave you can find called the Mountain Cave, and I don't think there's anything of import in there. But
the only thing there is there's the fighter ring.
Oh, that's where the fighter ring is. Yeah, and I found that very early, and I went ahead and I was like, all right, what does this do? And made sure that I figured out that it was bugged. And did not use it after that. But anyways, I remember wanting to get comfortable with basically diving into that dungeon to the point that I could, sustain myself almost, maybe use a couple of herbs, but clear it all out. And there's also a gold chest in there that gives quite a bit. I want to say is just over 100. And
100-ish gold, yeah.
And that's actually what I used in order to farm that full plate early on.
Okay.
And
I did read that was a tactic for farming gold early on.
Yeah, because anytime you leave a dungeon, all those chests respawn. And if you just pick up something you already have, it'll just say that there wasn't anything there. Or if your stack is too high, like too many herbs or whatever. So yeah.
Did either of you
bit of
find
a
any
diversion
of the cursed
here.
items?
Was that?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I found a cursed belt. I didn't put it on.
Oh, I did. The king gets mad at you. He's like, "What are you doing here? Get out!" And so it's pretty easy to get the curse removed. There's actually an NPC. I don't remember which town it is, but
it's right next to Tentacle in Breckenary.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like, "Hey, if you're ever cursed, come see me."
Oh, nice.
So we took a little bit of a divergence, and we are now down near the southern cave. And here's the good old gold man, which is basically it looks like a stone golem, but he's made of gold. And he gives you a lot of gold when you kill him, about like 180-ish gold every time you kill him. And that's pretty substantial. Like, you think about that full plate costing 1,000. You kill a gold man 6 or 7 times, and boom, you got yourself some new full plate.
Yeah.
He doesn't give you much experience, though. So he's not good for an experience grind. But to the west, there's a metal slime. Did anyone find and kill the metal slimes?
Yes.
Yup. Difficult to kill because they
Yeah.
like to run
Very
away.
hard to kill.
And they also have a ton of defense.
Ton of agility. It's super hard to hit them, and then when you hit them, sometimes you don't do damage. I think you can't use your spells to damage them, so you have to actually melee them.
Yeah.
And you only do 1 damage, as far as I could tell.
Unless
1
you
damage.
crit. If you crit, you do
Unless
your
you
full
crit.
your full
Oh,
damage.
yeah.
But otherwise, I think they have 3 or 4 health. So you just have to land and hit on it.
4.
Is it
yeah.
4? Yeah.
4, yeah.
So you gotta.
And
Sometimes
then
you
you
can
get,
just get in combat and they almost immediately run away, and it's just like, all right.
it's sad. But then you get like 180 XP, so that's great. That's good for XP farming there. But one of the other things is down in the southern cave, there's another old man, like an old wizard, and when I first chatted with him, he's like, "You don't deserve to be here. Be gone!" And he actually teleports you out of the cave. Did you guys get that at all?
I did. I forget. Where does he teleport you to? Was it back near the?
He just teleports you directly out of the cave.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I went in there after I got each one of the big key items in the game, and it obviously wasn't until much later that he actually would tell me anything different.
Yeah, you need another item. So you were told over and over and over that if you take the Staff of Rain and then the Sunlight Orb, that'll make like a rainbow drop. And that's true, but you need a third item. Do you guys remember what that third item is?
Was it like Erdrick's badge or whatever?
Yeah, Erdrick's token. Because
yeah.
I was stumped. I was like, all right, old man, I got everything you needed here. How do I give me my thing? I got these 2 things, and sure enough, I looked it up, and it's like, well, you got to get the token first. I guess to like prove that you're a descendant. I'm not sure what the point of that is.
Yeah, that Erdrick's token was the thing that proved you were the descendant, that you were the one worthy to actually go and fight the Dragon Lord.
So for me, I had acquired the Staff of Rain because I think you trade the Silver Harp for that, and that was pretty early.
Yep.
Not too far in. You have to descend the entire dungeon in what's the town? Garrenham. In Garrenham. You go all the way down in that grave area, and then you find the Silver Harp. And when I finally... So I got the token at that point. I was actually... There's... I forget exactly where you get... Oh, I think it's the guy behind the magic doors in these names. In Rimmeldar? Somebody tells you that you take 70 paces south and 40 east.
That's in Cantlin.
Yeah.
Oh, in Cantlin. Okay,
Cantlin.
okay. So
yeah,
much
we haven't got there yet.
Gotcha,
but we'll get there soon.
Gotcha.
One thing we actually haven't talked about, which just happened here, is what happens when we die.
Oh, yeah.
So
I never died. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
So the nice thing with this game is that death doesn't have that huge of a penalty. The only real penalty it has is you get teleported back to the king in Castle Tantagel, and you lose half of your gold. That's it. Mm-hmm. You can just continue on from
your
there.
experience. Yeah, I mean it hurts when you're trying to grind up for that next item.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah.
Luckily I didn't dump any gold that way, like any huge piles of gold. I always pretty much grinded in a place that was pretty safe. Like I would be able to escape or get out of there before I ran out of heal items, or I couldn't just get bursted down.
Mm.
Well, you're lucky. I certainly lost my fair share of gold there. Now we just actually, so I'm a little bit higher level. I'm level 14 now, and so I went ahead and went back to the swamp cave, and I was like, "Green Dragon, you're mine!" And sure enough, I did take him down, and that was an exciting moment because I was like, "Oh, cool! What's past here?"
Yeah.
And you find Princess Gwaelin. And this is straight up comedy because she's like super happy. She's like madly in love with you now. And so you're kind of like carrying her, almost like you're carrying her through the threshold of a door after getting married. Right.
Yeah.
And you're literally carrying her through the world as slimes are attacking you. And like it even changes your sprite.
Yeah.
Your animation and all your, it was great. You walk all the way back to the king. And the king is very enthusiastic to have his daughter back, and you get a very important item from Gwaelin there, which is her love. Right, it is literally an item.
Right. Yeah.
Called Gwaelin's love.
But
super Lobos, you were chatting about that. Yeah, Lobos, you were chatting about that. So why don't you kind of walk us through what that does?
Well, before I do, just one little tidbit that's interesting is that this is completely optional that you can do. So you can actually rescue the princess and then just finish the game just carrying her the whole time. But
oh, that's amazing.
So I was talking about this item that they hint at. It's something like 70 paces south or 70 leagues south and 40 east or 40 west.
40 west.
And they are alluding to the spot where Erdrick's token is hidden. And the way that I found that was not with the intended item. So Gwaelin gives you an item called Gwaelin's Love or whatever it's called. And if you use that, it acts as a compass and kind of tells you how far away you are from Tantegel Castle. And you can use that to narrow down those exact paces, away and not triangulate, but figure out the position of Erdrick's token, which it turns out is in the middle of this poisonous swamp.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which by this point you're usually strong enough, and if you've gone, I think you get Erdrick's armor. Is that at Hawksness?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, yeah. And if you defeat like kind of the boss enemy there,
it's an Axe Knight.
Axe Knight, yeah. Then you can search that particular spot where the Axe Knight was. There's a hint for this also from that other town, Rimeldar, I think.
Yeah, because they say something like this dude, the shopkeep, always like to be like digging around under a tree near his shop.
Oh, at the foot of the tree. Yeah. And then they also give you a hint that he had a shop in the east of Hawksness. So then you kind of use that to figure it out. And this is one of those scripted encounters. Mm-hmm. So you beat him, you get the armor. The armor heals you when you take, was it every 4 steps, I think?
I think it's something like
Erdrick's armor was 1 HP per step.
Oh, okay.
But the magic armor that you could purchase from Rimeldar was 1 HP for 3 steps.
That's what it was. Because I got the magic armor and I loved that because it was healing. It was really good for sustain. And then the Erdrick's armor, every step 1 HP was awesome. Plus, it makes you immune to all of the effects of poisonous ground.
Swamp, yep.
And
so
it would,
go sorry.
Ahead. I was just gonna. It would reduce the damage done by hurt more by I think a third.
Yes.
And it would
also
reduce
fire,
the amount of damage that you would take from breath attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was actually great because when I was fighting dragons, they have 2 attacks. They'll club you with their paw or they'll breathe fire. And every time I saw them breathe fire, I was like, yes.
Right. Yeah.
Because it did really reduce damage there.
Armor doing work.
Going back to the Hawkness thing, I think you and I, Hawksness. Jeez, why are the things so hard to pronounce in here? Jeez, what? Okay, anyway, we both came to the same conclusion where we were kind of like, we're looking around the town, we're like, all right, where the heck? We know it's somewhere near a tree, and so you're like going around and clicking on, you have a menu that you can search the ground at your feet. And so we're going all around, and then all of a sudden, you hit this Axe Knight fight.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, this has got to be it, because that Axe Knight is nowhere else in this town. The town still has randomly generated monsters. It's like, all right, well, that's the boss fight. He's pretty tough. I think I tried to kill him at level 14, and that wasn't happening. He was much too powerful for me.
One kind of interesting thing about tough enemies in this game, aside from the final boss, most of the kind of tougher encounters that I felt anyways, they have high damage, so they'll kill you quickly. But if you manage to land some good hits, they die pretty quickly as well. So there would be a lot of just avoiding the heals for the sake of dealing more damage, and it ended up working out. So that was generally my approach.
And if you could,
best offense is a good offense.
Right, exactly.
And if you could sleep one of the enemies and they could stay asleep, that was that was the most overpowered spell.
Yeah.
Or you come up against a caster like a mage, and you'd use block spell.
Oh, that too, yeah.
And so all their spells would be blocked, but they keep trying to cast it. So it's essentially, it's almost like sleep. So we are now in the town of Cantlin, and this is where we get that information. Yeah, it's 70 leagues to the south and 40 leagues to the east. There's that item we need. But before we got here, there was a big golem that we had to fight. Lobos, you killed the golem naturally,
I did kill it naturally and found out something else was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Well,
Alamaxia, did you kill it naturally, or did you find the item that you needed? So what I did is I actually found I don't know, you might not have found this. Did you find the whistle, like the fairy?
I did find it. Yeah.
There so you eventually did. So
I think the hint was again in Rimmildar, if I'm not mistaken, and it told you something about somebody had hidden something. Again, like X number of paces below the fountain or the well in what is that city? Cole. And so you go back there, and sure enough, that rheumatism curing water fountain is what you use as a reference. You take several steps down there, and then you search at your feet, and you find the fairy flute. Which
I love stuff like that so much in games where you're like, it was here all along.
Right?
I was walking over it like 10 times, and now I know the solution. It's a great reward for me.
Mm-hmm. To wrap up the whole spiel, the whole story about getting the Erdrick armor and the Erdrick's token being hidden in this swampy thing, I had no other idea except for the 70 south, 40 east clue. And I searched that whole southern section.
Oh, man. So you just kind of guessed it, like lucked in. You're like, this seems like it's about 70 south,
There's this whole deserty area that has like 3 paths, and they come to very clear dead ends.
Yeah,
and I was like,
terrible.
It's got to be at the end of this, right? So I searched all of that. Didn't find it.
So you didn't use Gwaelin's love at all?
I didn't until after and realized. And people were like, but I did get tipped off because I was like, wait, I have Erdrick's armor, which makes you immune to poison. So I feel I'm maybe halfway or 3/4 of the way of searching that whole area. I was like, it's got to be in the poison. So I started doing that. And eventually I found it, which, allows you to talk to the old guy south of Rimmildar.
So it's his armor that he needs, not the token. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you did get the token. My bad.
I did get the token, yeah.
The token is what allows you to talk
yes.
to him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just want to quickly loop back and close the loop here because we talked about entering Cantlin, and there's a golem there. Basically, you can blow on that flute, and it will stun the golem for a turn or two or something like that. So it makes it a little bit easier, but it's not necessary.
And they tell you that in Cole. And I remember reading it, but I didn't remember it as Golem. I was thinking something else in my mind the whole time, so I didn't even put 2 and 2 together until it was much later, and I was like, "Oh, I see."
Yeah, I definitely. So I followed the pieces, and I was like, "Oh, that's Golem. Let me see if this flute will work this time." Because I tried to blow the flute on like the gold golem,
the gold mans,
the gold man. I tried to use it on them, and I was like, "Oh, that's not working."
So we just got the rainbow drop, which, by the way, you need to combine the Staff of Rain with the orb from Tantagel. I had a hard time finding that orb of sunlight, I think it is, in Tantagel, because you talk to a guy and he's like, "Hey, I'm trying to find the cellar here," and I spent probably an hour searching every spot in the castle. I finally looked it up. Alamaxia, tell me, how did you find it naturally, and did you have to look it up as well?
I found it naturally, but I started searching every spot in the castle. I got two or three rooms in kind of the southern part of the castle, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. This can't be how they want you to do it. They don't want you to just blindly walk around searching. There has to be some kind of clue. So I really started looking around, and I thought to some of these other towns where I could walk not out of bounds, but right on the edge of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that I was kind of able to do that in one part of Tantegel, I was going down that eastern side. I was like, I wonder if I could just get one more over. And sure enough.
Yeah.
Nice. Lucky. That's awesome.
Yep.
So after that, you get all those, you combine them, you get a rainbow drop, and you've been hearing all these majestic tales about a rainbow bridge that connects these two islands to go to the end dungeon, which is a Charlock Castle. And so you put down the rainbow bridge, and it doesn't really look like a rainbow.
Oh, yeah.
So disappointing.
Well, there's a rainbow effect whenever it started.
It's a rainbow effect, and it's just
That's
a black
true.
and white bridge. It is like, what? I feel like I've been lied to. The other thing that Erdrick's armor does is it does allow you to pass through these. I don't know what they're called. They're like So remember we were talking about like the thing that looks like stripes, like the stripe tiles would
striped floor
do a ton
tiles.
of damage. Yeah, you can basically walk through those without taking the 15 points of damage. So I'm armed to the teeth here. I'm ready to go into Charlotte Castle. I'm level 16, so things are pretty tough. I'm having to run away, but I'm making progress there. So, I'm feeling good about this. Lobos, what level were you when you started this?
I think I was 17. Well, when I went for my all right, let's go see where the Dragon Lord is. I was 17 by the time I descended down the whole thing.
This dungeon is pretty wicked because this is full of stairs that go up and down and up and down, but ultimately you can find Erdrick's sword in here.
Yes.
Actually, I think you have to find it, right? I think I read that you. By the way, in the video it says it was empty. That was because I already had it, and that's what happens when you pick up something, as Lobos described earlier. Right. But I think you need the sword to kill the Dragon Lord. Can anyone confirm that?
I cannot confirm that, but
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Because it does, they make a big deal out of it being like, hey, the Dragon Lord's armor is as strong as steel, and then other places they say Erdrick's sword can cut through steel. So
I don't think it's a good idea to try it without Erdrick's sword, at least.
It's probably not. Yeah.
I never went back and tried to find one of those little iron blobs, little slimes, to see if the sword would work any better against those.
It doesn't. It doesn't. No.
Yep, still one.
Did you guys find the trap? Did you guys find the trap in this dungeon that the Dragon Lord sets for you? It's a hallway that never ends.
Yes, I did find that. Yeah.
I was like, because that was one of those where I was like, this has got to end, right? And I was like, I'm dying. There's got to be an end. And nope, there's no end.
There's a good opportunity to bring up this neat little thing that they do with the sound or the music in the dungeons.
I'm glad you're going to bring it up.
Yeah, so the dungeon's got this kind of creepy, eerie music as it is. But as you descend further and further, it pitches it and slows it down, and it gets creepier and creepier. And so when you're doing that infinite hallway, you're going through stairs, and the music wasn't changing. So I was like, I don't think I'm descending floors here. And that was kind of helpful in figuring out quickly.
Such a great tactic.
Yeah, it was a cool idea.
Wish more games would do that. But we're at the Dragon Lord, and the Dragon Lord's like, hey, you don't join me. We'll rule the world together.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good with me. And then he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And it's like, all right, game over. And there's no reset or game over screen. It just turns red.
Yep.
It says, thy journey is over. Take now a long, long rest. Ha, 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 ha. Everything turns red. So I thought that was kind of comical. And then I go back. I'm like, all right, let's beat this boss for real. So he starts out in a wizard form. It's pretty easy, right, Lobos?
It was super easy. I was like, oh man, this guy's no problem.
I think he only casts Hurt More at you, which does about 25 points of damage. And at this point, I've probably got 80 hit points. So I'm like, heal every once in a while and damage him. No big deal. Alamaxia, what happens after you kill the mage guy?
then his little pet, the Dragon Lord, comes out, and it is much, much more painful than what that guy was dishing out. Instead of dealing 25 points of damage, this big dragon is dealing 40 to 50 points of damage in attack.
Yeah. So basically what I was doing, I think what we all probably did was like you get one attack in, maybe two, and then you're casting heal more.
Mm-hmm.
But I was at level 17, and I was doing 1 to 2 damage. So by the way, I think this Dragon Lord has like 130 hit points or something. I was doing 1 to 2. And I was like, "What is going on? Am I missing something?"
I think I was doing like 7 to 12 even.
You were level you were level 20.
That's right. I was level 20. I think by the time I got there, even the first time I was level, or maybe I grinded a little bit. Either way. Yeah. Level 20 is what I needed to beat him.
Cue the montage music where I almost that almost broke me. I was like, I'm not going to grind out 3 more levels. That's ridiculous. I'm like, well, I'll just do Lobos' strategy of fast forwarding the emulator, and boom, that was the key, because it was like I went to 17 to 20, from 17 to 25 in no more than I'd say 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
And so that was a great feeling, and I came back here. And it's just a battle of attrition, right? Lobos, why don't you walk us through how you killed the Dragon Lord?
Yeah, pretty much as you described. With the health that I had, if I was around 52 health and I cast Heal More, that would bring me pretty much to full. So my rule while I was fighting him was generally, if unless I'm less than 55 health or so, or 50 or 60 health, attack. So I would just attack, and it really became kind of... There's a lot of randomness in the fight, because again,
like if you get a crit, you're happy.
If you get a crit, you're real happy. I don't know that
I never got a crit
once.
but
yeah, but you would deal anywhere from like 6 to 12 damage, and if you dealt like 6 damage in a row, that's like several times. That's a lot of damage lost. So I would sometimes just reset fights if I hit for 2 or 3 times, like a 6 health. So but like you said, heal more. Most of the time it's just heal more, attack, maybe attack again, and then heal more. And you just keep going and hope that the numbers work in your favor.
Same.
Did anyone try using hurt more? I tried to use it, but it just seemed useless.
I think I did, and it said like it did not affect him. I tried once.
It's like, what the heck? This is crap.
Yeah.
I think I used Hurt More just once across the entire game. I used it on a green dragon when I was just trying to farm XP outside of Cantlin. And I'm like, well, that was fun, but it cost a lot of MP, and my melee does just as good. So I'll just save the MP for Heal More.
Yeah.
And did you remember like generally how much damage it does?
I'm wanting to say on a normal mob it would deal somewhere between about 50 and 70 damage. Ooh, so it wasn't insignificant. But yeah, against the Dragon Lord, I didn't use it against the Dragon Lord because I had the same approach as Lobos, just attack, heal, attack, heal, and just make sure that I was never within one shot of dying. And that worked out well for me. I was level 20 when I beat the Dragon
20,
Lord.
Okay. Nice. I think I read that you have to be at least 17 or 18 to do any significant amount of damage. So we finish up here. We go back to the king, and the queen or the princess is like, "Hey, I want to join and be your companion." And she's like, "Will you let me join you?" And you have 2 options, yes or no. And if you say no, she says, "But thou must."
But thou must.
And you're like, "No." But thou must. No, but thou must.
Yeah,
there's like, all right, fine.
There's 2 points in that game.
She's like, I'm so happy.
Yeah, when you first rescue also, she's like, you think you could talk to her, and then she says, "Do you love me?" And you're like, "No." "But thou must." No, yeah, but thou must. And I tried it like 15 times just in case, every time. And then at the end, you say yes, and she's like, "I'm so happy."
I'm so happy.
Ignore the 15 times you said no. Yeah.
He truly loves me.
But one thing I was kind of surprised, but pleasantly so, was that after you defeat the Dragon Lord, I think it puts you outside of the castle and you're still playing. It's not like it teleports you to the castle and you're like, "Oh, that's the end." Like, you can run around, you can keep fighting stuff. And actually, I think what it is all of the enemies, all the Dragon Lord's minions are gone, and so you can just free roam through all of the caves and all the castle and stuff, and just collect whatever you want. Not that there's anything to do with it really, but in case you think you feel like you missed something in a cave because it was too tough to go through, you can just walk freely. Yeah. And it's pretty cool.
This guy was just going to ask what happens if you die and get teleported to the king. Like, hey, you died. Oh, but by the way, you did save the world, so thanks for that. So yeah, that's Dragon Quest, it's Dragon Warrior. I really enjoyed about like the first 75% of this game. It started out, it was a little bit of grinding, but it wasn't too bad. You expect that a little bit. Yep. I think when I got to the end, where it's basically like, hey, you just got to go grind levels to the Dragon Lord, that kind of soured me. And I think if I was playing on original hardware, I most absolutely would not have completed this game.
Yeah.
But once I fast forwarded everything, it became manageable. So.
Yeah, I think one comment I had in our chat was once I put it 300%, I said, hey, this actually plays like an RPG now. It was so slow because what this game really felt like to me was that kind of shift from a text-based RPG, like if anyone's heard of Zork. Type everything, what you're doing, you have to read everything. This felt like that, but with just a little bit of like actual controls to it. Everything still felt like I was inputting thing as if it were text. Like I'm typing fight instead of like I'm clicking fight here instead of typing fight. So it all really felt like that.
Yeah, I don't think this is the very first, but if you ask a lot of people, like Dragon Warrior was like, the JRPG that kind of set off the whole genre of kind of making clones like that. I know the very first JRPG I played was called The Legend of the Ghost Lion, and that is absolutely just a Dragon Warrior clone. Complete side note about that game. It's much meaner because you can't actually grind. You find items that give you levels, so it's much more controlled, and it makes high encounter rates even worse because you don't get anything from it. So
oh no.
Yeah, it winds up being kind of a pain. But I love it. It was my first one, so there.
I did notice in the credits for this game, I don't know if either of you noticed the name Akira Toriyama.
I did notice that, yep.
Art designer for the game, and also he created Dragon Ball Z. So once I saw that name, I kind of took a reflective look at the game, and I looked at the slimes, and I went, Yep, that's Toriyama.
Yeah, man.
So that's Dragon Warrior. Again, I had a lot of fun with this here. It kind of makes me want to play some of the later ones. I've played Dragon Quest VIII, which super super renowned, and I'm actually going through Dragon Quest XI. Oh, nice. And I know Lobos. Every time you're playing Dragon Warrior, and people come in your chat, and the first thing they say is, "Oh, cool! Are you playing through all the Dragon Quest games?" So we got to get you at least through Dragon Quest VIII, and if you don't do it on your own time, we'll wait until, I don't know when we can play, I think 2004 or something, when we can play Dragon Quest VIII. That'll be a lot of fun.
Nice.
But that's like I said, that's Dragon Warrior. So let's move on to, oh man, we got some Patreon supporters this week. I tell you what, we've been getting a lot of love from people. I think this is like the 4th month in a row. So really wanted to thank folks for joining the group there. So we got a Patreon subscription from Brian Robbins, and we also got another one from Huckle Slim.
Yeah, Huckle.
They are bringing us a little bit closer
one of my
to
friends.
that.
Nice.
Oh, nice. Thanks, Alamaxia's friend. We got that is bringing us a little bit closer. I think we're actually over halfway now, last I checked, to the Earthbound episode. And again, that's at 25 Patreons. We're going to be checking out Earthbound with a special 2-hour episode. So let's keep that train rolling. And if you want to know more about that, you can head on over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Gaming Show. But if that's too complicated for you, you can just go to SaturdayMorningGamingShow.com.
Nice.
Got all the links there for you there. So check it out.
So thinking about all of this, we've played some RPGs, we've played some pretty high action games. What do we got on the docket for this next month.
Well, this one I'm super excited because Lobos and Lobos, do you remember that biker gang we used to be in?
Yeah. I still have my jacket.
It was great. And I was like, we ought to relive those moments. But, with the whole coronavirus stuff going on, it's like we don't really want to go out and do it. So we should do it virtually.
Ah, good call. Good call. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. So we're going to be checking out Full Throttle on the PC. This game is widely renowned as probably one of the best adventure games ever created. I think only Grim Fandango might be up there, but Full Throttle is a classic, a gem, and I've played it so many times there. I think I've got the footage already recorded of the old one, but they did re-release a remastered one where they redid all the art and it looks beautiful. So highly recommend checking that out.
Is there any functional difference between the old and the remaster?
I don't think there's any functional difference.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's all. I mean, there's trophies and stuff like that or achievements. So those are always fun to get. But we're gonna be checking that out in March. So that'll be a good time. And sadly, we have reached the end credits on this episode. So again, we wanted to thank all you for listening to us on the podcast or heading over to LobosJr's YouTube channel and watching the videos that we compile there.
And we release our podcast monthly, so follow us and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google, or just go to SaturdayMorningGamingShow.com and listen to it there.
Might as well. It's got everything you could ever want.
Might as well.
SaturdayMorningGamingShow.com.
And also, if you have any feedback, you can use the contact forms there to give it to us there. Or if you just want to stick to email, you can email us at SaturdayMorningGamingShow@gmail.com.
And follow us on Twitter at SaturdayMGaming.
And wanted to give a special shout out to TechnoX for much of the music on this episode.
For Saturday Morning Gaming, I'm Alamaxia.
And I'm Lobos.
And I'm the Thefatwizard. We'll see you in March with Full Throttle for the PC.